Your Venus retrograde story begins with this week's forecast. Hi, my name is Haley Comet. I'm the host of Magic Monday. Welcome. Magic Monday is your weekly astrological forecast that doesn't just cover the astrological happenings of the week, but how it is that you can co-create with the cosmos, understanding and utilizing astrology as a tool in order to learn from these transits, in order to work with these transits, and in order to conjure some magic within your universe with these transits. Because when you are swimming in synchrony with these celestial waves of energy, you experience a lot less resistance and a lot more alignment, flow, and magic within your universe. So if that perspective resonates with you, we would so love to have you here. I'm here every single Sunday with a cosmic beverage in hand, ready to chat you through the week. So let's chat through the week, shall we? First up in our cosmic chit-chat, I want to share with you that this week, Venus, the planet of love, beauty, money, leisure, pleasure, enters her pre-retrograde shadow period. What does this mean for you? This means that themes, hints, and clues of what our Venus retrograde story this March and April will be about are beginning to be unrolled. You know, Venus retrograde, it's a soft launch, okay? Venus retrograde is soft launching in the cosmos this week. So I want you to pay special attention as you navigate this week. What comes up around love? What comes up around finances? What comes up around beauty? This may foretell what your Venus retrograde will be reworking, reviewing, you know, all of those good retrograde re-prefix words. And you'll want to pay attention to that. And of course, when we hear Venus, the planet of love, retrograde typically deals with unfinished business or things from the past or things that need to be closed out or completed. Yes, you can find from this week onward, you may hear from friends from the past, colleagues from the past, exes from the past. You could run into them. You could dream of them. It tends to be a time in which we are contemplating any sort of unfinished business of the heart. And when it comes to completing that unfinished business of the heart, clearing out old chapters, which as a PS, you do not need to return to the person to do. Sometimes closure is something you find within your own self. What I will say though, is that this particular week or this particular chapter of Venus retrograde that again, we will review, it's not necessarily too anchored or grounded in reality. And the reason for this is that this week, Venus aligns with Neptune, which is a hallmark part of the Venus retrograde. And Neptune is the planet of illusion. It's the planet of deception. Your heart can be playing tricks on you during this period as well as the forthcoming Venus retrograde. Again, tricks feels a little dramatic, but the energy of Neptune, you could be idealizing, romanticizing, fantasizing quite a bit, making the past with somebody that you shared a lot more illustrious than it actually was. Sometimes it's not so much that we miss the person or the friend or the colleague. Sometimes we just miss that particular chapter of our lives because there is a simplicity there, or with distance, we've been able to romanticize it or dress it up quite a bit. And just in contrast with some of the more intense energies that we're navigating through, namely, we've got Mercury aligning with Pluto this week. Sometimes when things feel very intense and things maybe even feel for some individuals really dark, sometimes that adds to the allure of certain people within our past because we associate it with a simpler time and sometimes even a simpler version of ourselves that we miss. So I'm going to remind you this throughout the course of Venus retrograde. I also have a Venus retrograde all signs video coming up. Make sure to check out on my channel because that will spotlight where exactly you'll be feeling this call for review and handling loose ends. But you'll hear me reiterate this notion, especially with this particular Venus retrograde, that just because you might be missing the past or missing certain chapters of it does not mean that you need to go back there. And Neptune is very much smoke and mirrors type energy. It's like a movie set. It makes things look a lot more glamorous than they actually were. And sometimes just the contrast of where we are now and who we were when we knew this person or when we were in this chapter of our life or when we had this financial opportunity, whatever the Venus retrograde story is, sometimes it looks better from a distance. Sometimes we yearn and we long and we desire, but then when we actually go back to it, we're like, This is not all that it was cracked up to be, because how could it be? Neptune is the energy of the glamour and the movie set and the allure and the longing and the missing. And that's not reality. Things look quite different at a distance, and it looks more glamorous and it looks more sparkly at a distance. So my encouragement this week is just don't be fooled. If there is a desire where you're wanting to, go back to the past in some regard, really contemplate, like, is there part of me that yearns for this, not necessarily within this person, but within this particular season of my life or within this certain chapter of myself? Do I desire to reconnect with this part of myself? Can I put this energy, which is ultimately just creative energy, honestly, when we're romanticizing and fantasizing life, that is creative energy. Like, can you put that to something else? Can you paint with that? Can you write a poem with that? Can you write a script with that? Like, Neptune can be very much muse imagination energy, and it would be helpful to channel it towards things that are a little bit more productive than romanticizing Joey from summer 2021. Let him go. But with Venus Neptune, there can be an energy this weekend where we are romanticizing, fantasizing, looking out at past lovers through rose-colored glasses, maybe current people within our orbit through rose-colored glasses. Neptune is dazzling, but it's very disillusioning. So it's going to be important to be discerning this weekend when it comes to matters of the heart with the energy of Venus, as well as matters of the wallet. Okay, with Venus on Neptune, this could be somebody selling you the dream, or even trying to have you purchase something that seems like it's going to solve all your problems, and you get it and it just does not live up to the hype. That's the energy of Neptune. Neptune energy is a bit like a magic trick, right? It's nice to be dazzled and say, ooh, and wow, and how. But when you get a little closer, when you start asking questions, when you see the trap door, when you see where the bunny was hiding, that the magician was able to pull it out of the hat. Why do they do that, by the way? Like, poor bunnies probably do not want to be involved in your shenanigans, but geez. I'm a fan of a magic show as much as the next person. I mean, this is called Magic Monday after all. And I think sometimes it's nice to get lost in something. It's nice to get swept away in something, to lose yourself within the magic show. Especially since with Mercury on Pluto this week, we could feel like things are quite intense. Mentally, you could be feeling a lot more fear or taking in news that feels very destructive or even scary. And in those instances, it can be quite nice to be able to step into a magic show and just lose yourself within the illusion, right? That this magician truly is conjuring a rabbit out of thin air. So sometimes it's just nice to escape into a different reality, right? Where people can make rabbits come out of pure air. But it's just important as you navigate this weekend and really this upcoming Venus retrograde to allow yourself to be dazzled, but to remain discerning is the encouragement. And like I said, with Mercury Pluto, Pluto is the planet of the creator and the destroyer. And with Mercury being our mental space, you can feel like your thoughts can be going through extremes this week. There could be an energy around going into obsessive tunnels and spirals of acquiring information, maybe a lot of it making you feel more and more fearful. Pluto is the planet of destruction and creation. And with Pluto on Mercury, our mental space, it's important to know that your mind can create and your mind can destroy. Like with Mercury Pluto, you could observe this week that your thinking, your mental space, or even the news you are receiving is quite extreme, quite polarizing. And with Mercury Pluto, it's a lot easier to go down essentially tunnel holes of acquiring information, feeling more and more scared as you do so. There can be an energy around your mind just being plagued by darker thoughts, something like this. But I do want to highlight that even a planet as dark as Pluto can have a magical component to it, in that Pluto can be very, very focused or very obsessive. And it could be obsessive bad, right, around doom scrolling, all of that. But it can also be obsessive good, where it's just like eye on the prize around this is what I'm creating, this is what I'm building. Again, with Mercury Pluto, you could destroy yourself from the inside out, being really self-deprecating or looking out at your world through the lens of fear or worst case scenario. Or you can utilize this Mercury Pluto around just being so insistent around creating the new. That's the uncomfortable part of Pluto, is that it really is this energy where the only way out is through. And when we are on the precipice of enormous change and transformation collectively, as well as within our universe, there can be a lot of fear of what awaits. I think everybody wants change, but with the energy of Pluto, there's just an awareness around the journey towards getting there is going to be challenging. But the only way that we can get through it is to keep going. And that's why I wanted to start with the Venus retrograde pre-shadow, because again, in the face of where your life is asking you to transform, where society is asking you to transform, a step up, however this is showing up, there could be this energy around looking at kind of the shadowy tunnel ahead of you and being like, well, that looks scary and I don't know what is waiting for me in there. So let me go back to Joey from 2021 or this old job or this old thing, because I have some sort of comfort there because I don't know what's ahead. So I'd rather return back to where it is that I've already been. You've already been there, my love. Like, it's scary when you don't know what exactly is ahead, but that's not an invitation to go back to your past. It looks prettier from afar, I can guarantee you that. Venus is on Neptune. Your desire to return to a simpler time is impeding the universal call to step into this new era, step into this new chapter, step into this new cycle. Because on Wednesday, January 29th, we have an Aquarius New Moon. And yes, we've got this Plutonian tone over the week. We had it last week as well. The Pluto is Plutoing, absolutely. But this new moon does trine Jupiter. Again, it's in Aquarius, which is the sign of the future. It's making a very loose conjunction to Pluto, so there's an awareness around where things are transforming and evolving within the future. But with the trine to Jupiter, it's around how it is that we can essentially expand into the new chapter, or at least utilize a framework of viewing the future as a framework of something that's going to lead to more meaning within our lives, or with this in an air sign, more connection within our lives, more togetherness within our lives, more community within our lives, something like this. And to see wherever possible for you, you can allow yourself to get excited about where it is that you are going. I know the shadowy tunnel can be scary, but you never know what is ahead for you, what blessings are ahead for you, honestly, with the new moon trine Jupiter. So there is an energy around putting energy towards the new, and to also know that you're not walking through that tunnel alone. Like, that's important. When we talk about Aquarius energy, it really is around humanity, right? So with the energy of Aquarius moon trining Jupiter, it can also be an aligned time to like really contemplate the people that you are dreaming with or creating with or banding together with, as well as if we take it out of the Aquarius energy and just consider North Nodes in Pisces, you're also walking through that shadowy tunnel with spirit, with faith, with the universe, right? So as always, we will be talking about this astrology so much more in depth from both a thematic as well as a day-by-day perspective. But before we do, take a step inside my Cosmic Cafe. If you are new here, this is a little segment where we yap, we sip a beverage, we chit-chat until we jump right back into the astrology. So you're always invited to just jump to Vibe Check of the Week if you want to look more so at the astrology. But this is a time that we all kind of sit in an imaginary cafe, sip a beverage, and chat. How you doing? How are we feeling? What are you drinking? So I'm drinking a hot water, lemon, ginger, cayenne pepper, maple syrup tonic. And it's quite delightful. And it's got a kick. It's got me ready to go. I guess it's good for digesting as well as for detoxifying, which I thought is helpful when it comes to navigating a Plutonian week of astrology. And it's new. I've never read this before, you know. It is a time around seeing wherever possible we can empower the new. Even though there's a temptation with Venus retrograde to go back to the false comfort of the past. And I say false because of that Neptune energy. Like, what you truly desire, what you truly want, what truly feels good and aligned for your soul with this happening in Pisces is not behind you. Things just look prettier and sparklier and more illustrious from a distance. You get there and you're like, why am I back here? Joey is lame. Joey from 2021 is lame. Why have I been so mean to Joeys lately on Magic Monday? Last week, one of our main characters of Vibe Check was also named Joey. So deepest apologies to any Joeys out there. I promise I'm not targeting you specifically. I want to just take this moment of us all gathered in the Cosmic Cafe to make an announcement and just give you all a heads up about something that is transforming within my world. Because, you know, I'm not just relaying these transits to you. I'm here experiencing them with you. And there's a shadowy uncharted path awaiting me as well. And it has a lot to do with my day-to-day and my work, which, to be specific, the biggest change is that my books for personal readings on HaleyCommentAstrology.com are currently closed at this moment in time, which is such a grieving, truly, like when we talk about Pluto energy, it is a grieving energy, and it's not something that I wanted to do simply because I love it so much. Like being able to meet one-on-one with so many of you, the conversations we're able to have, the connections I've been able to forge. There are some of my clients who I've met with every single year on their birthday for like, what, 6 years, 2018? Like truly, it's something I'm so grateful for, that you all trust me to translate your birth chart, your transits. And I do intend to reopen them at one point in time. I just feel like I need to transform the way in which I've been showing up. Currently, it is January, and when I shut down my calendar, I was booking for late July. And that's not because I just naturally have a 6 month out lead time. It's because I was booked solid. And it's just getting more and more challenging for me to like forecast what my life is going to look like in July, how I'm going to feel in July. And I just don't want to take on any new clients unless I'm absolutely certain that I can show up with my full heart, my full soul, because I've too much respect for you all to give lukewarm energy in a reading or to give lukewarm energy in a video, right? Like I want to ensure everything that I do, I'm doing so with my fullest self. And while it's a grieving, because I'm grieving that I won't be able to meet with as many of you every single week as I've gotten to since 2018, like it's a grieving in that regard, I'm also a bit excited. Like I feel like I was trying to keep myself frozen in what Haley Common Astrology was in 2018 and keep myself frozen to, well, that's the amount of clients that I take every single week and that's how it is that I show up. But I can feel my passion for astrology pulling me in a new direction, and I'm feeling intuitively that I have to be clearing space for it. So it's exciting, it's exhilarating, it's scary, right? Pluto is all of these, but it is the path that I am being called to walk. So just a couple of logistical notes. First being, if you have a gift card, I'm absolutely honoring your gift card. Please reach out to me. My email address is HaleyCommentAstrology.com. I will get you on my schedule, no problem at all. If you're already on my schedule, you're good. We're going to work together one-on-one. I have designed things in such a way where I will have the energy to maintain all of the readings that I have currently on my calendar from January to July. So please do not worry, I'm not canceling your appointment. I'm not going to give you lukewarm energy when we meet together. I'm simply closing things down to requesting new bookings at this point in time. I do intend to reopen them at some point in time. If you want first dibs when those readings do become available, check out the link that I have within my description. And that list will be notified before I post about it on social media, before I post about it anywhere. So sign up for that list to ensure that you are in the loop on that. I also want to let you know that the only way that you can work one-on-one with me at this point in time until I reopen things on HaleyCommentAstrology.com is via my program, which is Self-Care Astrology. You can check that out within the description if it feels like a match. It is more of a long-term journey. Like I walk hand in hand with you. I check in with you every single week on voice memos around, it's like your own personal Magic Monday, around how the transits are impacting your chart. We meet together 4 times to take a deep dive into your chart, into your transits. And that program has grown so much, which I'm so grateful for. But that's also a reason why I had to shift things around to ensure that I'm available and accessible with those that I'm walking through with Self-Care Astrology. So that's the only way to work one-on-one with me at this point in time. Again, I intend to open it, but it's just really too soon to say when it comes to Pluto energy. So I just want to thank you for your understanding. I understand this might be disappointing for some, but get excited, because the early stages, which again, it's really too soon to say, but the early stages of what I'm tapping into and where things are going is quite exciting. And I feel like it's going to be the most aligned usage of my gifts and the most powerful way that I can serve you all. Because ultimately, that is my intention as a Virgo moon and rising, is that I want to serve, I want to help, I want to empower you through this tool of astrology. And I genuinely feel like the ways that things are changing and transforming will allow me to answer that call. And so I'll stop yapping now. and we'll go ahead and take it into vibe check of the week. Okay, so after we connect in the Cosmic Cafe, we then take it into vibe check of the week. So this is how we essentially paint a tone over the week's astrology. If you're not so familiar with the intricacies of what it means that Mercury is entering Aquarius, that Uranus is stationing direct, that Venus is entering its pre-retrograde shadow, if you're not familiar with the ins and outs of what that energy means, we compare everything that's happening this week to a real life scenario. It's not a scenario that I'm saying is going to play out within your universe, but if you tune into the overall dynamics and themes, you may see that some of them surface within your universe. So this week's astrology and this week's vibe check feels like the following scenario. We will say that you had this friend, Janine, who you used to play lacrosse with, and you guys lost touch for a couple of years, and you guys recently reconnected and realized that there is something between the two of you that is extending beyond friendship. And it's kind of like those early stages of finding a friend that you know, like, oh, we're gonna get along, like we're like-minded, or when you find someone that you're like, oh, I can fall for you. Like, think of those early stages. That's kind of the vibe of this week's astrology, and that's the vibe of you and Janine. There's lots happening all around you. Like, Mercury, Pluto is no walk in the park. Like, there's an awareness within the vibe check that things societally are intense, collectively are intense, maybe even certain things within you and Janine's lives are intense, but it feels a lot more manageable because you have somebody within your orbit and within your corner who feels truly like-minded. And you know, the energy of Aquarius, it's the energy of the weirdo, of the eccentric, and oftentimes we can feel like we are just not on the same wavelength or frequency as so many people. You know, dates where we're just like, this is not, or even like people where we're trying to connect in a group environment and we're like, do they think I'm weird? Like, why can't I connect with them in the genuine way that maybe I want to? So it's so special when you do feel that connection. It's intense, it's powerful, and the two of you just want to talk about everything under the sun, right? And deep conversations. That's Mercury, Pluto. The two of you want to launch out all of these desires of things that you guys want to do together, right? With the energy of the Aquarius New Moon trining Jupiter and Gemini run, we should go to Italy, or we should try that new restaurant. Like, all of a sudden it feels like this world opens up of possibility and potential. Of course, you could take yourself to Italy, you could take yourself to the restaurant, but there's something around doing those things with this person by your side that makes those options sound a lot more enticing. It makes the world feel bigger and more full with possibility because you have someone else to dream with, to co-create with. And the beginning stages of a friendship, the beginning stages of a relationship, we don't think about, you know, the end. We aren't typically too dialed in with the reality of certain situations. I mean, there are literally chemicals flooding our brain that make us look at this person with these moony eyes, right? Major honeymoon period, rose-colored glasses. That's Venus on Neptune. Like, we don't go into relationships anticipating the end. We don't go into relationships tuning into Janine's pet peeves and habits that are going to bug us in 3 years down the line. Like, we don't see any of that. That's Neptune energy. That all fades into the backdrop, and we just see this person's best qualities, which I do want you to be mindful of. I would encourage you to see where it is that you can view the people within your orbit currently through this Neptunian lens around acceptance and tuning into the beauty of their soul, and maybe even tapping into certain elements of compassion or forgiveness can also be a Neptune energy. Just know that that's also the lens you're viewing people who potentially are not in your life and potentially don't deserve to be in your life. You know, Venus Neptune could be like, oh, we're going to put all of the reasons I walked away into the background, and I'm going to expand all of the projections and dreams and the best qualities. Or we're going to conveniently leave out why I initially walked away, and I'm just going to illuminate that one great day at the park that we had and that one wonderful memory, and I'm going to cast a projection of your best qualities onto you. Like, that's Neptune energy. And again, in those early stages, like with Neptune energy, it really is like a drug. When you talk about Neptune energy and falling in love is a drug, but even just getting in the early stages of a friendship around like, wow, I can tell we're really going to get along. And with Venus Neptune, you know, we don't anticipate any friendship breakup down the line or any, you know, weird value differences that could surface down the line. Like, we don't see any of that in the early stages of it. And I'm not saying that all of us are going to meet that person this week. I'm just saying, think of that energy. Think of that energy when you just connect with someone and the days start to blend together. right? Can't you tell that's when you're going to enter a relationship with somebody, or like find a best friend, where all of a sudden, you know, we went to lunch, that turned to a walk in the park, and then we popped into the flower shop, and then I'm a little hungry. Should we get pasta? Let's make pasta. Should we get a bottle of wine? Let's get a bottle of wine. Do you want to stay the night? Okay. And then the next morning, do you want to get breakfast? It's like when the time melts together. My mentor used to say 3 days was his knowing. Like if he didn't get sick of someone after 3 days, or he just wanted to spend more and more time with this person after 3 days, he's like, okay, this is definitely going to be a significant person. And again, it's not that that needs to literally play out. Just think of that energy and tap into that energy. If you're in a long-term relationship, have you guys been dreaming? Have you guys been co-creating? Like this might be a powerful week to just be like, what do you dream of? What do you want to create? What possibilities and potentials can we launch out that aren't Mercury Pluto coded of doom and gloom and the worst case scenario? If there's certain friendships within your orbit where you guys have been friends for a long time, where there's certain routines or things that you guys do together, this might be a time to like ask them, what is your heart desire? What do you want to create? There's like an energy this week around where we can shift from survival mode into creation mode, right? Because Mercury Pluto, we can feel like we're just in the space of survival, right? Around just being hit with just the ongoing shock of just the headlines and the information that's out there, and just even just certain things that you could be ruminating about or obsessing over, and being in a state of survival around just being so tapped in around I want to survive, like even putting energy towards the worst case scenario in order to prepare to survive. Like that could be an energy. It's not denying the Plutonian components of life. Like within the vibe check, you and Janine were aware that things were happening. It's just you guys were kind of in your own little world, and within your own little world, the possibilities, the potentials, the deep conversations made all of the challenges in the outer world feel somewhat less scary, because at least you guys were taking it on together, right? And that's the energy. Because there's an ask this week around where we can shift from survival mode to creation mode. Like Mercury Pluto on the shadow side could be us being in survival mode around like plaguing our brain with all of this information around the worst case scenarios and feeling scared, right? Descending into potential chaos. We've got Uranus stationing direct, right? And just feeling like we are reacting to the world around us and feeling out of control of everything, right? Just trying to survive. Whereas creation mode is around, what am I creating? You know, what possibilities are we putting out there? What potentials are we putting out there? What art are we creating with Venus Neptune in order to, you know, remedy the hearts and minds of what many people are going through in some regard? What are we creating? Because you are not just responding to this reality, you are a creator in it. Even if there are certain things that are outside of your control, tune into what is in your control. And even just that process of brainstorming and dreaming and co-creating with someone can help the world open up. Sometimes you can find solutions where before you just found problems. Sometimes you can find things to look forward to where before you were just looking at things to obsess about and ruminate about. There's an energy around where you can step into yourself as a creator. And also knowing while we can't control everything, it's being mindful of your own loops and maybe even making that conscious decision to break a loop, to break a pattern. Aquarius New Moon, loose conjunction to Pluto, trining Jupiter, to free yourself from a pattern. And to also see where we can break our own loops. Like we are all in a loop of some sort. And sometimes we can feel like the loop is just happening around us, but there are things that we can do to break the loop. There are. And you might not be able to control everything, but you do have control of some things. Is it scary to break the loop sometimes? Is it scary to admit responsibility or to take accountability for a loop that you are perpetuating or a mentality that you're perpetuating with Mercury Pluto? Absolutely. But there are new beginnings ahead. Should we be in the creation mindset to dream of them and to move towards them? So I'm going to take it into our day-by-day analysis. I do want to let you know that all timestamps are available below. Should you feel called to jump to a particular day, should you feel called to jump back to a particular day. I'm located in California. My time zone is PST, so please adjust to your local time zone if you are located elsewhere within this world than I am. I also want to let you know there's a gear icon where you are able to speed me up. You are able to slow me down to align my playback speed to the speed in which you like to process information. information. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into Monday, January 27th. So on Monday, January 27th, I want to let you know firstly that at 6:53 p.m. PST, Mercury, the planet of communication, thought processes, intellect, analysis, will enter Aquarius. And with this shift, Mercury goes from Saturn-ruled territory of Capricorn to Saturn-ruled territory of Aquarius, traditionally speaking, that is. From a modern perspective, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, which has some activity this week, so we're definitely going to feel those Uranian currents of electric energy. More on that in a bit. But from a traditional perspective, both Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn. But the difference is this. Capricorn is around learning the rules, the structures of things in order to ascend to the top, in order to essentially play by the rules, in order to win or achieve, what have you. Whereas Aquarius is the part of Saturn around dialing into the reality and the structures of things in order to disrupt, in order to innovate in some way. So Capricorn is the part of Saturn around maintaining the status quo, and Aquarius is the part of Saturn around understanding the status quo so we could disrupt the status quo. And you could find with Mercury and Aquarius, there's just this desire to view things differently, right? To take on a different perspective, which naturally, when we connect with Janine, when we connect with anyone where we feel like we're given our fullest permission to let our freak flag fly, right? We allow ourselves to vocalize our weird observations or our weird ideas or our weird visions for the future. And when we think of the best art, the people who made major changes societally happen, it wasn't by being afraid to be weird, right? It was about embracing weirdness and disruption of the norms in order to try new things, and thus launching out new potentials, possibilities, and solutions is the energy of Aquarius. You know, with Mercury in an earth sign, earth is very grounded, yes, but it can feel very weighted or very dense of an energy. Whereas Mercury in an air sign is kind of like viewing things from above, from a logical perspective, right? Still taking into account the reality of the situation, but viewing things from above, sometimes we can get out of the problem enough in order to find a solution. And also with Mercury and Aquarius, sometimes we're able to find a solution when we put our heads together, when we brainstorm, when we work in community, when we all connect with in the comment section, which always makes me so happy week to week. Like sometimes when we are so burdened and feel so heavy by the responsibility of the problem, we're not in a space to be able to envision a new future, which is why it could be powerful to connect with someone and share our weird ideas or the situation we're going through. Tuning into a club, whether it's getting together with friends, whether it's connecting online, there's a nudge at this time to really tune into where it is that you are connecting and collaborating and where you are getting a little weird with your thoughts, okay? That's what's really great about finding those people, is when you can get weird with them, when you guys can like talk in your own language, or you know this is someone who would appreciate the bizarreness of the interaction that you had in the store. Like, it's so nice to be able to like speak your fullest, truest language with someone, because so often we feel like we have to tone it down, or is that so weird? But when you just feel like someone's on the same wavelength and you can just get a little weird with it, again, you step into this new language. And when we give ourselves full permission to embrace who it is that we are, authenticity and eccentricity and all, we carve the way forward for new potentials, which is alive currently in the cosmos. But you may not feel that Monday and Tuesday. I want to let you know, like Mercury enters Aquarius and it's applying to Pluto. So our mental space and our focus could be dropped down to some darker places of the psyche, some darker corners of the internet, right? Or something like this. We also are in the waning crescent moon phase currently as we prepare for Wednesday's Aquarius New Moon. And this is a lunar phase that is associated with clearing space. Sometimes we feel very emotional. Sometimes we feel inclined to let things go, to release what is no longer serving. So sometimes things feel heavy. Sometimes we're not feeling as inclined to want to socialize. Sometimes we're feeling inclined to hermit. So maybe you're finding that spirit of collaboration and compromise and via the internet or a group chat or something like this where you're able to hermit but also connect, or something like that can be alive. And also adding to little density early this week, the moon is in Capricorn all day long. It sextiles Saturn, the planet it's answering to, at 12:33 p.m., which should help your Monday be on a productive productive note. I would just say with Mercury at the anaretic degree of Capricorn for a majority of the day, definitely be mindful not to, rush things or feel like every email needs to be sent out right now or every decision needs to be made right now. Sometimes Mercury at the anaretic degree, we could feel like now or never. And yes, be productive, get things done, but do so in a grounded way. Doesn't need to all happen today. And don't beat yourself up if you don't get it all done today. The Capricorn moon squares off with Chiron in Aries at 4:51 p.m., which could be this energy around beating yourself up because you weren't that productive or beating yourself up because you were tired. Again, the moon does not particularly like being in Capricorn. And this shows up in that Capricorn is very grounded and very systematic and applies a very step-by-step approach to things, very linear approach to things. And moon is constantly changing, right? We are expected, as it relates to a typical schedule, to be productive, from typical hours, in a very systematic way. But if we look up at the moon and what the moon's doing, sometimes it's out, sometimes it's hidden, sometimes it's halfway, sometimes it's crescent, things change moment to moment. Your needs change moment to moment. It's unrealistic to expect yourself to be the same person with the same energy levels every single day, moment to moment. Things are constantly changing. But moon doesn't particularly like to be in Capricorn because there could be an energy around beating yourself up if you need a nap today, or if you're feeling more drained, or if you're feeling more sensitive, or something like this. Denying that you are a human being with needs that fluctuate and vary. You are not a machine. Is the major thing I want to say here. You might be feeling a little crabby as you get later on in the day. Again, Capricorn moon squaring Chiron, we're a little triggered, opposes Mars in Cancer, we're a little crabby and grumpy. In the evening time, just before midnight, the Capricorn moon does trine Uranus, so there can be an energy around dealing with what's annoying us and finding innovative solutions for what's annoying us. On Tuesday, January 28th, I want to let you know that late on the 28th, just before midnight, so in many places around the world, this will happen early on the 29th, but I want to let you know that late at night, we have Mercury aligning with Pluto, and this could feel like a bit of a dark cloud over your Tuesday. It doesn't have to be. I do believe that Pluto can be utilized in a powerful way, in a magical way, right? But I need to be forthright that with Mercury and Pluto, this is going to be an important day to be very mindful to the places that your mind is pulled towards. Have you ever had one of those days where you were social, you were with a group of friends or something like this, and you just weren't on your phone that much, and at the end of the day you're like, wow, I had a really good day, and then you check your phone and you're hit with some crazy headlines of something wild that's happening in the world, and you just feel your mental state go from this high of just connection and collaboration and community to this low around grieving for other people around the world or being scared for your and your family's future. And yes, it's important to be informed, but it's also important to recognize that statistically, when we get sucked in to online rabbit holes or doom scrolling or what have you, obviously statistically we're going to be less happy. Even if we're not doom scrolling, even if we're just on Instagram looking at everybody having babies, buying houses with their boo, doing this, Pluto energy can be an envious energy, absolutely. But regardless, it's important to use social media and don't let social media use you. Right? Pluto has a lot to do with power. And with Pluto on Mercury, there's an awareness this week around how information is being controlled, how powers that be can be, suppressing certain information. There's a lot to be said about that with Mercury, Pluto. And I think with the energy of Aquarius, it asks us to get creative with things. Algorithms do suppress individuals talking about certain things. And I think it's been fascinating just seeing how essentially we're creating this new language around being able to talk about things without saying the exact words that the algorithm will suppress content within. Mercury, Pluto can represent these more extreme circumstances do oftentimes birth new innovative ways around disseminating information or being able to connect or being able to collaborate with others. And I think it's important to be informed, absolutely, and be intentional around the information that you are sourcing out, but just that, be intentional. It's not in this particular era, in this particular season of Pluto and Aquarius, it's going to be important to be very intentional around what it is that you are consuming, around what your even algorithm is showing you, like not letting be outsourced to technology and these programs telling you what you should care about or even what you should think. Because regardless of whatever content we're consuming, it does shape our worldview. And we can say all day long, I'm a free thinker, I think for myself, I think all of us do, but it's important to know that the content that we are regularly consuming does shape or mold how it is that we see things. And there's also an awareness around the content that we're not seeing or the information that we're not seeing, if they're being, suppressed by algorithms and things like that. So my encouragement here is to not outsource your thinking or the information that you are consuming to algorithms and to apps and things like this, to empower yourself within it. This could be setting aside a certain amount of time, because it does not help. It does not help going down these rabbit holes. It will just make you miserable, and that's not a very empowered state of mind to be able to genuinely help or genuinely create space. And honestly, not to sound too tinfoil hat here, but honestly, a lot of people do benefit when you are in a more fearful state of mind. So it's going to be important to not allow, fear or panic to get the better of you, as well as to empower yourself around the information that you are seeking out, the information that you are taking in. Because if you can relate to what I shared, where you go from, connecting with people in real life, like face to face, to being plugged into these online worlds and faceless people arguing in the comments, like sometimes it just strips away the humanity of it. Again, I'm so pro internet, like I have parasocial relationships with the people that I, watch every single week, listen to every single week. I love online. I love community. I think it is a way that we can find community. I just think it's important that we are not just allowing ourselves to be in this more reactionary perspective around allowing our time to be absorbed on these particular apps or consuming all of this particular information, because you do kind of like time warp. Again, when you're spending time with friends or spending time with Janine, you're in this energy connecting face to face, and then sometimes your algorithm can plug you into this that's happening over here and that's happening over here, and you literally go all of these different places and you're not very grounded within your own experience, right? You're worried about what's happening here, you're worried about what's happening here, you're anywhere but the present moment. And again, we're in that survival mode. We're just like kind of reacting to all of these different rabbit holes that we're going into. And so it's just important, if you feel yourself being pulled into a world, if you find yourself on a weird corner of the internet or your algorithm is showing you all this particular content, empower yourself within it. You are not just at the mercy of these particular apps. Maybe with Mercury, Pluto, this is an energy around either limiting your consumption. Teach your algorithm what content you want to see. This is a time to intentionally seek out the voices that you want to hear from and learn from. This is a time to press not interested, to follow the individuals that you want to learn from. Curate your feed. Remember your power, right? With Mercury, Pluto, there could be an energy around feeling powerless to the circumstances. And with Mercury, the mental state that we're in, the information we're being shown. And with Mercury, Pluto, it's remembering the power that you do have in your participation on these apps and the content that you are consuming. Design it. Make your algorithm something that is reflective, things that inspire you, things that empower you, things that educate you. While I do think information can be controlled and manipulated and all that Mercury, Pluto stuff, I think it's also important to really shape what it is that you're viewing, because it's so interesting that we're all plugged into different worlds by way of what algorithm and what content we are being shown. And so I think the encouragement is to recognize that you are losing yourself within a world, and before you go down that rabbit hole, just be like, okay, is this the best usage of my time? Is this going to be a way that supports me getting into a more empowered mental state? Because with Mercury, Pluto, you could feel a little bit more paranoid today, being a little bit more of a fearful mental state. You could be obsessive a little bit, rumination. This showed up within the vibe check around just like deep conversation. Absolutely, with Mercury, Pluto, you could be wanting to, talk conspiracy theories with people or talk whatever, with Mercury, Pluto, talk about the deep underlying stuff that's not being talked about. That could be a way with Mercury, Pluto, but could also just put you into a fearful, paranoid state of mind, which is not helpful. And with Mercury, Pluto, get plugged into worlds that you want to plug into, right? Like with Mercury, Pluto, if you recognize your algorithm is showing you a particular world and you're like, I don't really want to go into this world. Like with Mercury Pluto, plug into a different world, get lost in a book, get lost in a deep conversation with a friend. Recognize that you do have power over what information you are consuming, as well as with Mercury Pluto, it's also our mental space. This could be a day around being very focused. Like Mercury Pluto could be tunnel energy, right? Like when you lose yourself in a project, there's no separation between you and what it is that you're working on. You are just fully eye on the prize. It can feel good to channel Pluto energy in a constructive way, but just that. It can construct, it can destruct. Choose to construct. Use this obsessive focused energy to get lost in a conversation, to get lost in a project, to get lost in a book, to get lost in Janine, okay? Any and all of the above. Because Mercury Pluto can also be getting lost in fear, getting lost in worst case scenario, getting lost in being very self-deprecating and destructive of ourselves. So that's gonna be something you'll wanna be mindful of really Tuesday and Wednesday because it lands so late. Our lunar story, the moon is in Capricorn in the first portion of the day. Between the hours of like around 2 a.m. to around 8 a.m., the Capricorn moon will flirt with the building Venus-Neptune conjunction. And this could just be an ask, particularly in the morning time, to really set up your day. I mean that physically around drink a glass of water, do things that are gonna set your day up on a nice tone, as well as with the Mercury Pluto energy, just being mindful if the first thing that you do is turn on the news or grab the newspaper or start scrolling or something like this. Again, important to be informed, important to educate yourself, but it's just knowing, like, is this setting me up for success, right? So maybe instead choosing to go for a walk instead, or read a passage of an inspiring book. Like there's just an ask to show up for your body, yes, but also show up for your soul with this Venus Neptune and Pisces energy, and also your mind with that Mercury Pluto alignment building. After the moon sextiles Neptune, just before 8 a.m., the moon's void until it enters Aquarius at 11:31 a.m. This is the sign of the new moon the following day. Do keep in mind, days before new moons, we could feel more withdrawn, drained, exhausted. Again, if we've been taking in all this information in all these different worlds, our minds could be drained taking in that much stimuli. So it's also just important to be mindful with yourself on that. That Aquarius moon comes in to align with the Mercury-Pluto conjunction that's building. So the later portion of the day could be Aquarian, right? Around networks and groups and communities and solutions and things like this. But it also can feel a little foreboding with the energy of Pluto, a little obsessive, a little bit of ruminating energy. So I just want you to be mindful of that. So on Wednesday, January 29th, the Aquarius New Moon lands at 4:36 a.m. PST. It lands at 9 degrees Aquarius. Let's dive in. So the new moon is making a very loose conjunction to Pluto. Pluto is sitting at 1 degrees Aquarius. The new moon is sitting at 9 degrees Aquarius. So that's about an 8-degree orb. Not all astrologers like using wide orbs. I do. I like big orbs. I cannot lie. I would consider the Pluto energy alive in this new moon. Regardless, we had that Mercury-Pluto energy exacting the night before. So Pluto's making its presence known. So is Jupiter. Jupiter trines this new moon, which is an energy around how do we frame the future with something optimistic or something that is conducive for our growth, whether that's showing up in spiritual ways, social ways, philosophical ways. Jupiter is a planet that is associated with meaning. And with this new moon happening in air signs, the meaning that could be found within connection. It's interesting to note that the sun is not dignified in Aquarius, Jupiter is not dignified in Gemini, but regardless, there's still a trine. And so this is a new moon around envisioning possibilities and potentials, even if it doesn't feel possible at this moment in time. You know, Aquarius is very much the inventor archetype. And to think about what you have to do, the mental space you have to be in to invent something, to literally bring something out of thin air, right? That's true magic. I don't need a rabbit out of a hat. Like inventing is a form of magic. To be able to conceptualize what does not yet exist when it is not in front of you, right? And that's where Aquarius energy could be helpful because it can detach us from the reality of it in order to go to a different world, to envision new possibilities, new inventions, things such as this. And so this could be an energy in which you envision things that at the moment in time seem absolutely inconceivable. Like, could it ever be possible that I could work this particular schedule? Could it ever be possible that I could have a relationship like this? Could it ever be possible that I move abroad or something like this? Again, people will call you crazy until you do it. And you won't get the results you really want until you are thinking new thoughts, or at least dreaming up new potentials or possibilities or different ways that you want to collaborate with others, work with others, help others, get together with others, brainstorm with others, even with this air new moon. And I also feel, to an individual level, there is an invitation with this new moon to address any bugs in the code, so to speak. Aquarius always makes me think of technology. And just with the new moon's proximity to Pluto, Pluto goes deep. What's beneath the surface? It's also like our psyche. And a lot of times things beneath the surface can show up in very like surface level ways around what is visible or out in our world. And so there's also an invitation around seeing certain results within our world of things that we feel out of control over. And the energy of new moon on Pluto is around, is this something that just is happening, or am I in some way perpetuating this loop or continuing on this particular cycle? Because the new moon on Pluto could be like, let me address the bug in the system or the glitch in the software that's showing up in these results happening in the same way, the same loop. Maybe it's even the same dynamics with different people within my life or within different jobs, but the same patterns. Like the first step is identifying that there is a pattern, that there is a loop. And again, if it keeps happening in different places, in different ways, there's an invitation with this new moon on Pluto around, is there something that I'm doing that perpetuates this? Could I possibly shift the pattern? Could I break the loop? And it's uncomfortable. You know, I'm reading this book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, and it is blowing my mind. And I feel like everybody should read this because I can't even summarize everything that he's shared within this book thus far. But just know this book is very this new moon coded in that it essentially talks about how a lot of times mentally we perpetuate the same cycles and loops, even if they don't feel good, even if it leads to negative emotions or negative outcomes within our life. It's familiar, it's comfortable. And the first step is recognizing that there is a pattern, there is a loop, and while there's lots in our life we cannot control, there's a recognition around, if this keeps happening in different arenas of my life, like the only common denominator is me, how can I address this bug? How can I address this glitch? How can I get my software to run more smoothly, right? So I'm not hitting the same hiccup over and over. And it's uncomfortable to do that. Like, I'm not a coder, but I would imagine it's probably not the most pleasant feeling to have to go into the code and change things. You're like, what if it messes up the whole software? And think of within your life, right? It's not comfortable to change. Within my life, it was very challenging for me to shut off my calendar. Like, I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but this has been part of my world since 2018, meeting with multiple clients every single week, regardless of whatever is happening in my life. That was the constant. But it was getting to this place around recognizing that I was in a loop around just feeling completely at the mercy of my working schedule. It's not that I was running a business. My business has been running me. To be completely forthright with you. Again, perspective is important this week. Am I using my social media, or is my social media using me? Am I running my business, or is my business running me? It's like, consider where it is that you feel powerless and contemplate if it's possible for you to reclaim your power in some way. And I'm sure a lot of us feel that way, right? We have working schedules that demand a lot of us. There are certain things that are outside of our control, but this new moon asks, is there one thing that I can do in order to feel more empowered, to run my schedule so that my schedule does not run me, to break the cycle so the cycle does not break me? Like, that is the ask when it comes to this new moon. I think a lot of us get into a space where we're like, things are happening so fast and it'll slow down after this and it'll slow down after this, but there's an awareness around, oh, it's not going to slow down until I slow it down. Like, if you feel like you're running on a treadmill and the universe keeps making it faster and faster, again, that's being in survival mode, just trying to keep up. What if we can get into creation mode? And a lot of times when we're making shifts like this, it seems inconceivable. We can't even imagine a reality of that. You know, we are inventing a new reality. We're birthing a new potential out into the world. It can feel inconceivable. But if there's energy of Pluto around, just recognizing this cycle will lead to my own destruction. And maybe yours is showing up in a different way. Maybe it's showing up within your relationships. Maybe it's showing up within your own mindsets, your mentalities, your habits. there's just an energy with the Aquarius New Moon trine Jupiter around what if there could be a different way? What if my business didn't get 95% of my time and energy? What if my partner and I could, move abroad? What if? And again, it's going to feel inconceivable, but at least you are birthing out a new potential, a new possibility, which can drive change and transformation. And just observing if there's like a glitch, a bug in the system that is causing you to choose that same loop every single day. Because again, a lot of life is out of our control, but to a certain instance, we are choosing something. So if we're locked in a certain loop or locked in a certain pattern within ourselves, it's this energy around, why am I choosing this? What are the belief systems or the underlying mentality or psychological programs that are causing me to feel like it's normal for me to perpetually choose this cycle? What are my excuses? Because, we have so many of those. When it comes to change, it's like, well, I can't change because I need to see clients because I've always seen clients. Or I need to be this busy because I'm so grateful for the business that I would feel guilty if I said no. It's like getting clear on your excuses around why you cannot change. And sometimes when we kind of dig deeper into those excuses, we see it's just our brain trying to keep us safe, being like, change equals bad. So let's stay in our familiar loop. It might not be the most empowering loop, but it's our loop. We're used to this loop. We want to keep you safe. We want to keep you safe. So we don't want you to change. That's where the excuses can sometimes come to the surface. I'm not saying we can, pull a rabbit out of a hat. I'm not saying everybody has the luxury of being able to rearrange their work schedule or something like this, but recognizing what is the role that I play in this. Because when we give our power out, when we just resign ourselves to our circumstances around my life as a treadmill that keeps going up, you are giving your power away. You have more power than you believe. And this new moon is around reclaiming it. And so the new moon window is alive for the next 3 days. So you have plenty of time to do a manifestation or to do a ritual. I personally only like working with new moons after the new moon, just because that's like the fertile soil, right? Before the new moon, the last light is still shedding, right? When it comes to the new moon, now the moon is beginning to build in light. So it's helpful for things that we want to grow, ideas that we want to grow, inventions that we want to birth out into the world, right? So from 4:36 a.m. onward, you can have an Aquarius new moon intention ceremony, maybe get together with friends or around groups or communities that just make you feel inspired and empowered. Wherever it is that you find community. Again, maybe you find it online, just be mindful of, doom scrolling, or when you notice that your mental health is taking a toll. This could be friends, this could be, you and Janine. It could also be like, workout classes, things like this. It is statistically impossible for any of us to be going through something solitary. I know it feels like that a lot of times, like we're the only one who gets it and understands, but we are all united under the same sky, right? We're all feeling these waves of energy, maybe in different ways, but we are all more alike than we are different. And it's important to remember that and be in environments where we do remember that camaraderie and that connection, which is why, like I was saying with yesterday, like those times where you go from just socializing and connecting with people to going on social media and like catching up on the headlines that you missed. It's like such extremes, right? Pluto energy could bring about very extreme energy. And it's not that being in community and spending time with people that you love takes away the problems of the world, but it does help you feel more connected or feel part of something bigger than yourself. And that itself can help us be in a space around being more inspired around creating the change that we want to see, banding together with like-minded souls in order to move towards new possibilities and potentials. And so the Aquarius moon will also sextile Chiron that evening around 9 p.m. So again, there could be something healing around envisioning future possibilities and potentials. Again, choose the future you rather than the past you. Past you is calling, Venus entering its pre-retrograde shadow. Past you is giving you a ring. You don't need to answer, okay? You can romanticize, you can say, "Aw," you can have nostalgia about it, but it's important to choose the future. And honestly, moving towards your future can help heal the past, because the more new stimuli and information and people that you connect with, the more distance you are putting in between you and the things that have hurt you. Like the things and the situations that have hurt you will never get the opportunity to meet the new sides of yourself that you are stepping into, to meet the new creations that you are birthing, the new realities that you are creating. So on Thursday, January 30th, I want to let you know we have a very Uranian day. So we have Uranus stationing direct. We have the moon squaring off with Uranus. What you need to know about Uranian sort of days is that it's a day to expect the unexpected, okay? When outer planets such as Uranus change direction, it's not the most deeply personal thing. It speaks more so to generational collective cycles and shifts, but we typically do feel planets very strong when they do switch direction. So you could be really feeling this Uranian call, which again, disruption, change. It's very correlated with the energy of Aquarius New Moon. There's an energy of rebellion when it comes to Uranus energy around. We do not need to resign ourselves to circumstances. We do have power. We do not need to blindly accept things. Like, we do have agency. We do have autonomy over our experiences. And so with the energy of Uranus, it's like, where do I need to rebel? Where do I need to shake things up? Where do I need to protest? There could also just be strange things happening with Uranus direct, like strange weather, strange headlines, just weirdness is within the air. You could be feeling a little restless, a little antsy when there's Uranus energy alive. And we also have on Thursday the Aquarius Sun trining Jupiter in Gemini. Again, this was part of the new moon, so it's very alive in that. Jupiter, yes, it's around growth and meaning, and there can be an energy around feeling confident, feeling inspired by the people you're around in some regard, people that you're connecting to, feeling very supported by this. There can be an energy of that alive. But I also want to say, with Sun trine Jupiter, it can also be going on this journey type energy, going on a quest, wanting to learn something new with Jupiter in Gemini. And a lot of times to step into anything new, to learn something new, to take a new class, whatever it is, when it comes to stepping into something new, there is a desire for space for it. And so it's also knowing, like with the Pluto energy, there could be legitimate things within our life that we feel like are being taken away or being released. And with Sun trine Jupiter, it's encouraging yourself to go out on that journey, your fool's journey, around what can be created with this space. Again, not to keep bringing it back to my example, but it's like the energy around when it came to birthing new things that I'm really excited about and learning about new things that I'm excited about. It's like, I don't have the space for it. We need space to create. And so if possible, and this won't relate in every single circumstance, but if possible, really seeing whatever within your life you are releasing or what is being released from your world, really seeing what space does this open up beyond what I'm going to create with it, but who am I going to connect with in this new era, this new chapter of myself? And so like I said, the moon will square off with Uranus around 3:30 a.m. That's how we start the day. So very Uranian day. You could just wake up with something surprising, something unexpected coming into your orbit. The moon is void until 2:52. So the first portion of Thursday, you might feel a little restless, distracted, all over the place, not the most productive. When the moon enters Pisces at 2:52 p.m., you could feel a little bit more in your feels, potentially a little bit more dreamy. We're building to that Venus-Neptune alignment in the sky, and Neptune energy tends to blend. It tends to kind of fade out, just like the time does, when we are connecting with someone who we really vibe with, we just flow with, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, is it Thursday? Was I supposed to work today? Do you want pancakes? Neptune energy tends to be that. So with the Pisces moon and also that Neptune energy building, you could start to feel these Neptunian waves of energy coming into your experience, which is around your own intuition, which is around things that inspire you as it relates to a big picture. So on Friday, January 31st, the moon is in Pisces all day long, which can have you feeling like you want to escape into your own little world. Right? We've got Venus aligning with Neptune tomorrow. The call to withdraw from this harsh reality is strong. And just knowing that we have this Pisces moon, Neptune energy building, expect to feel more sensitive. You could feel all of your emotions more intensely. You could feel your emotions oscillate more wildly at this time. And you can also find you're deeply empathetic at this time. Neptune blurs boundaries. And so the bounds of where we stop and where others begin could become more and more murky moving into this weekend, where you could be taking on other people's challenges, trials, and tribulations as though they are your own. Like, this would be a time in which I would be very intentional around your own energetic maintenance, right? Filtering your own water system. If you listen to Magic Monday, you know what I mean by that. That's going to be important today as well as tomorrow. And don't lie to yourself. Okay, and when it comes to Pisces moon and Neptune energy, sometimes other people deceive us, sometimes we deceive ourselves or we delude ourselves. And you're going to want to be conscientious of that and mindful of that, because ultimately the energy of Pisces is meant to flow in between fantasy and reality, like taking visions from our own little world and making them real, taking inspiration and hope from our own inner world and giving it to other people. It's meant to be this dance within fantasy and reality, but sometimes we get lost in the sauce and we're just fully in fantasy, right? Fully in imagination. And why I say not to lie to yourself or deceive yourself, that could come up in love or money tomorrow. Okay, we'll talk about it. But today it could show up around deceiving yourself around, oh, I'll do this at the end of the day, or I'll get this done on Monday, or something like this. Will you? Be honest. Because what I see from a lunar perspective, in the morning time, the moon squares Jupiter, which could be overdoing excess energy. I could see overthinking, over-idealizing, sitting at your work desk and getting lost in a fantasy about your crush or something like this. It could also be just being overly optimistic around, yeah, this will take 2 hours. Mars is retrograde. If you think it's going to take 2 hours, it's going to take 5. Let's be realistic with ourselves and our time and energy, because then in the evening time, the moon aligns with Saturn. And this could be this energy around remembering the timeline that you are not sticking to, or the deadlines that you did not hit, or the responsibilities that feel like they are weighing you down. Just reality could catch up. If we get lost in the sauce in the morning, we could feel the reality catch up. You also just could feel like your weekend is off on a more somber note. You know, Neptune energy can be very weepy. Same with Pisces. It could be very kind of like weepy and sad. And the energy of Moon Saturn, there's just going to be things that are feeling quite hard and quite heavy. And again, the energy of Pisces Moon, we could want to escape into our own world in order to not deal with the heaviness. And I think it's such a delicate balance. Like, I think when we do have hangouts like that with Janine or with anyone new we're getting to know, where we're like, we are just on the same wavelength. I want to spend all my time with you. I'm obsessed with you. Pluto energy can be that. Okay, let's be real. Pluto energy could be that too. Obsession, right? It's a good feeling, and we get kind of lost into this own little world with this person, which doesn't last. As we know, relationships take on different seasons. That doesn't need to be a bad thing, but that energy around like the euphoria of the inner world doesn't last, and it's not sustainable, because we have to come back to reality eventually. We can't just stay in bed and go to get pancakes and go to the next thing and go to the next thing. Eventually we have to go to work. We have to, exercise. Like, reality beckons. And then so this energy with the Pisces moon conjoining Saturn around, where it is that we can blend fantasy and reality, where it is that, yes, we can get lost in our own world, because that's important for hope and faith, and dreams are what keep us going. That's important, but also coming back to reality to anchor yourself down and ensuring that the ways in which you're escaping are not destructive. On Saturday, February 1st, happy February, everyone. New month, new magic. I want to let you know that at 8:33 a.m. PST, Venus, who is exalted, will align with Neptune in Pisces, which is that dreamy energy. This is the honeymoon stage. This is the rose-colored glasses. This is essentially getting swept away. And this can show up in many different ways. This can show up within our relationships. This could also show up within our finances. When we go to the mall, we want to be swept away on some level. Maybe our wallet doesn't, but we want to be swept away. We want to find the perfect thing at the perfect price that's going to allow our life to show up more perfectly, right? And that's where advertising could be quite effective, because it's not just selling us on the shirt that we see on the model, it's selling us on the joy that's in the model's face and how flattering the shirt is on her, and even just the energy as represented within the advert, what it communicates, what it says, and feeling like this shirt is what is going to help me become that person. My life is going to be more so like I'm giggling through a meadow with a picnic basket, like this model is modeling this shirt when I buy this shirt. And at first, that rush of swiping your credit card, it's a high. Neptune energy is a high. It's a high when you're falling in love. It's a high when you make a new friend and the two of you are just gabbing and gabbing for hours and you're like, wow, I think I'm making a new best friend. It's a high. But what goes up must come down. Like, you will feel good having that bag in hand and knowing you got this shirt, but that high does fade. You could feel like, maybe not to a rational level, I'm going to be the girl in the advert, but you could feel like this shirt signals a new era for me, where I giggle in meadows with picnic baskets, which is a fantasy. It's an illusion. And when you're talking to the salesperson about the shirt, they're playing into the illusion. They're like, feel the texture. Wouldn't it be magical to be the sort of woman who wears a shirt of this texture? But there's some level that we want to be swept away because reality is reality. Life is lifey. And it's nice to be swept up into a world of meadows and picnic baskets just by buying a shirt. It's nice to be swept into a dream world where nothing matters other than making pancakes with this person that you met. Like, it's nice to get swept away in these things, but what goes up must come down. And so it would not be my invitation to buy anything too significant at this time. With Neptune energy, the terms and conditions can be a little foggy, right? The salesperson could be a little too adept at selling you the dream. Keep in mind, at this point, Venus is officially in its pre-shadow retrograde period, which means Venus will revisit this territory of the sky. So you might return what it is that you buy during this time, or return to the themes that are alive during this time. So be conscious of this. And be mindful of this in your relationships as well. I would say a favorable way of navigating through this week, even if you're not meeting someone new, even if you're not reconnecting with Janine, see where it is that you could tap into that energy. If you're with someone and you've been together for years and years and years, dream with them, envision possibilities, get lost into your own inner world together. Like, this could be a great week to like fall back in love with your partner in a sense, or really consciously infuse that spirit of dreaming of possibilities and potentials of what the two of you want to create together or feel together or dream of together, right? And if you feel like you have not gotten quality time with your partner, Venus, Neptune, this is a time to have a movie marathon, cancel plans, and just get lost in each other. Like, that's the vibe. Again, some of you could go for a date and get lost in the person. What I would say to be mindful of is try not to get lost in Delulu, lost in fantasy. Okay, Venus, Neptune could be this. Listen, you don't need to pull that tarot spread on that person on how they feel about you. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. I always feel like it is a red flag in my world if I need to pull cards to figure out how someone's feeling towards me. Like, that's a red flag within itself. The people who I've had very fulfilling, amazing, great relationships with never once made me pull tarot about them to figure out, because they showed it to me. They showed it to me. You know, there's less room for mystery. The thing is, distance creates mystery, right? Creates room for fantasy and yearning. When something's at a distance, whether it's within our past or maybe our crushes at a distance, it's a lot more glamorous. When we're up close and personal, again, it can be deep and amazing, but it's different, right? There's less space to yearn and to long and to project and to feel, much like that shirt advert, like this person is going to fix all your problems, and then you're going to be giggling in a meadow with this person, right? Lo and behold, if you actually do enter a relationship with this person has a severe grass allergy. They're not going to giggle through a meadow with you. They don't like picnics. They're not going to do that with you. But it's easier to project all these visions and fantasies on someone when the details are a little murky. It can sometimes drive obsession, right? We've got Mercury, Pluto earlier in the week, Venus, Neptune, around almost like gambling with our tarot decks around, okay, I asked how they felt and I got 4 of Cups, but let me shuffle again because maybe this time I'll get 2 of Cups or something like this. Like, sometimes we can get obsessive looking for the answer that we want, or again, making details murky in order to construe it in a certain way or light it up in a particular way. And so I would just advise to be a bit mindful this week if you find yourself getting obsessed around pulling spreads on how this person feels, or fantasizing about this person, or yearning about this person. Distance makes the heart grow fonder, and it makes the dreams more tantalizing because you don't have to deal with any of those annoying reality factors, right? Around this person's grass allergy and that they don't like picnics. Like, when you get close and personal, you'll learn all these details that directly contrast the visions of how you projected this person. Have you ever found that where you were like in love with this person, in limerence with the person from afar, and then you got to date them and then the illusion was shattered? Because that had nothing to do with them. That was just what you were projecting on them. There's just an energy with Neptune where sometimes there's yearning and longing and wanting, and then it just kind of fades. You know, the illusion fades. We see the way that the magician is able to pull the rabbit out of the hat, and it feels less of a fairy tale. And I would also say, you know, Neptune can be a planet of deception and things like this. So that also could be reviewed when it comes to the upcoming Venus retrograde around, yes, maybe where lovers or people have deceived you in some way, but also where it is that you've deceived yourself. We want to believe in the fantasy, right? We want to be sold the shirt. Some level of us, even if we're like, I should mind the budget, we want to buy the shirt. We want to believe that this person can solve all our problems. Like there's a part of us that wants to fall for the scam of Neptune. And I would also say Neptune energy can be very weepy, very sad, you know, especially with the Venus in pre-shadow retrograde. You could be, you know, thinking about certain people from your past or feeling sad or things like that, or just feeling like when you are going out in the world, like, is everybody like in love or have a partner except for me? Love is all around you. Love is not the fairy tale thing that we were sold. Love is you helping your next door neighbor with their groceries. Love is your best friend checking on you when it's announced that your favorite show is being canceled. Love is the way that your dog greets you at the end of a long day. Like, don't look for love where it's not, look for love where it is, because Neptune energy can be illusion energy, and it's so important what it is that we focus upon. You know, Neptune is screens, mirrors, cameras, what the camera zooms in on and what the camera ignores. If you're already in a space where you're feeling lonely and sad because you're not in a romantic relationship, your mind is going to zero in on all the romantic relationships and they're all so in love, right? Or in an opposite way, if you're in a relationship and want to be single, you'll be looking at all of the single people and how they're having so much fun and flirting and all of this. And make anything seem more glamorous because, again, it's away from us, right? We don't know the intricacies of that couple's relationships. We don't know the hard parts outside of just flirting and being free around being single. Again, Neptune energy doesn't tell us the full story, and there's an energy where we could get lost in something that's not the full story. So if you feel like something isn't adding up in terms of what someone is selling you or a dream that they are selling you, again, being mindful where you are selling yourself a dream, convincing yourself that that ex was the love of your life or that you're going to be alone forever. Like, be mindful of what fantasies you are getting lost in. And what I also want to say is focus around what's right rather than what's wrong. You know, with South Node Virgo, there can be a lot of energy around, you know, fault finding and nitpicking. You know, you can find fault with anything if you look hard enough at it. You can find fault in being single. You can find fault in being in a relationship. You can find fault in that shirt. You can find fault in not having that shirt. Like, you can find an issue when it comes to anything. And this could be like grass is greener energy, right, with the Neptune. And with North Node in Pisces, it's important to have gratitude and appreciation for what is. Like, enjoy the current season of your life. Enjoy your partner's great qualities, even if it's annoying that they have, you know, a grass allergy or what have you. With North Node in Pisces, it's important to appreciate the beauty and the divinity of what is, even if it's not perfect. And after midnight, the Pisces moon will trine Mars. So if you happen to be awake for that, that could be an inspired time. You might stay up late painting or writing or creating or something like this, especially with the Pisces moon then sextiling Uranus at 5:54 a.m. So what I want to say, if Muse calls you on Saturday, answer the call, right? You can get inspired ideas or channel inspired downloads. Things like this can be alive as it relates to Saturday. Again, getting lost in an art project, getting lost in creation rather than just consuming, getting lost in creation rather than just reacting. That's going to be important this week. From there, the Pisces moon aligns with the Venus-Neptune conjunction around 2 p.m., which that energy can particularly be alive. The moon is then void after it conjoins Venus at 2:06 p.m. until it enters Aries at 5:10 p.m. So if you did feel any of the weepy, sad, sentimental energy of Venus on Neptune, the Aries moon should be a kick in the butt type energy. It's kind of like that vibe after you've had a good cry, when you just kind of get over it and you're like, okay, should I go for a walk? Should I work on this project? Like, that's kind of the vibe. And with the energy of Aries moon, it's also like our fighting spirit, which might feel like it's at a low. You know, Mars is retrograde. We could be feeling a little bit more defeated and depleted. But with the Aries moon, it's just coming back into this energy around not feeling resigned to your circumstances. Again, if you can channel a piece of art, make something out of nothing, like, that's magic. If you can transform your own emotional state into feeling really intense and sorrowful into one of joy and gratitude, that's magic. Like, don't get sold on the magic tricks that are being played on you. remember your own magic is the energy. And the Aries moon will sextile Pluto that evening, so it can be a time to really be empowered by the challenges that await you within the future, or the ways that you're feeling called to fight or stand up for something. On Sunday, February 2nd, the moon is in Aries all day long. It makes some nice sextiles to Mercury in Aquarius at 8:35 a.m., Jupiter in Gemini at 12:03 p.m., and the Aquarius sun at 5:23 p.m. So all in all, it should be a day to communicate, to collaborate, to go on different adventures, to get physical, right, with the Aries moon energy. And my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I am the creator of my own reality. Have you ever spent the entire day, I'm talking morning to night, with someone, and then when you both retell the day, you both pick out particular parts of it? How is that possible that the two of you went to the same places, did the same things, ate the same food, saw the same people, but had two vastly different experiences? How is that possible? That when you think of the day, you think of how delicious the chocolate chip pancakes were, how friendly the waitress was, how empowering the litter cleanup was because you felt like you were making a difference, how fun it was to make chicken parm for dinner. Like, how is that what you remember? But if you ask the person you spent it with how the day was, they can tune into just how cold it was in the restaurant when you guys were eating pancakes, or how annoying the waitress was, or how annoying the people next to us at the litter cleanup were because they were blasting their music. Like, it feels just like in the retelling. So you guys had two totally different days, but you're like, we were in the same place. How is it that I remember this and you remember this? How is it that we were doing the same thing, yet I had this experience of it and you had this experience of it? That you were tuned into the old being annoying playing music, and I was tuned into the amazing conversations I was having with the fellow volunteers. Like, how does it feel like we were in two different realities? Because we are. We are all in our own reality. And it's important to remember that you are a creator of your reality. We can't control always what is happening around us, but we can control the perspective by which we view it. What details we decide to focus in on, what details we decide to fade out of view. I think it's called the yellow car theory, but it's a theory where if you're looking for a yellow car, you're going to see them all over. You know, we are constantly scanning, and there's so much stimuli that we fade certain information out of view and we expand other information into view. And again, if we're looking for problems, we're going to find them everywhere. If we're looking for things to be grateful for, we're going to find them everywhere. If we're looking for possibilities, potentials, and solutions, we're going to find them everywhere. Because you, at the end of the day, after you tuned into how delicious the pancakes were and how empowering the cleanup was and how fun it was to make chicken parm, there's an energy where when you're driving back from the grocery store with your chicken parm ingredients, you saw an advert of a class that you might take. Like, we're more likely to scan for more things to be grateful for and more possibilities. We're in creation mode. And it takes being accountable and responsible for your own reality. We all participate in a reality. There's logistics and things like this, but we can do the same things. We can have the same day. We can be in the same environment and still have two vastly different perspectives and approaches due to the reality that we are creating, due to the code that we are running. And when you can get awareness of that, you can break the loop. You can break the pattern. You can address the bug in the system in order to train your perspective to tune into possibilities, potentials, things to be grateful about, ways to help, ways to support, so on and so forth. So my loves, I'll see you again, same time, same place. I'm hoping I'll be able to get these back on track. I typically aim to post these Sunday morning. It's been giving Sunday night, Monday morning. As of late, again, my schedule has been running me. I have not been running my schedule, but I do anticipate that to change, as much is currently with Uranus Direct and the Aquarius New Moon. So thank you for your patience. If you made it to the end of this forecast, go ahead and comment below the rabbit emoji to signify the legitimate magic that you are going to make within the week ahead. No sleights of hands necessary, no trapdoors, no rabbits hidden behind the curtain waiting for its big moment. None of that. Real, legitimate magic, making your dreams a reality. So until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.